I have finally actually been able to get around to finishing ReZero Season 3. And the reason for why I say that is because of this very strange release structure. And there's another show that I'm going to be reviewing that's also going to fall in the exact same category. But basically what ended up happening was ReZero Season 3 is about 15 episodes, I want to say? 16 episodes. So basically what they did was they aired, I think it was like 11 or 12 episodes, and then returned, so that they did that many episodes at the end of last year, at the end of 2024, and then returned in February 2025. And that break in between doesn't really help the storytelling, because you kind of need to understand what's going on during those previous episodes. And mind you, I'm not going to be going into any spoilers because of course this is like the third season of a show, so to some extent I might make some references to earlier events, but I don't think I'll be doing that in this particular review. But I'll try my best not to, ideally, because none of my reviews are scripted. I'm just kind of, talking off the dome as I am right now. But yeah, so unfortunately, because of that break, it did kind of hurt the show a little bit for me. But all in all, like, this is a great show. It's one of the few isekais that I would actually recommend to people. There's only like 3 that I would actually recommend. I know that Slime Isekai is one. I know ReZero is another one. What's the third one? I don't know what the third one is that I would recommend. I would need to really think about it for a moment there. But yeah, so let's actually talk about the show and review it for a bit. So, first thing, the opening. I think I skipped it every single time because it starts off incredibly slow. When it does get into the rock aspects, like the guitar riffs, it still very much feels like a very pop-inspired opening. So honestly, doesn't really do much for me. I think that the opening is just pretty standard. The ending theme has a little bit more uniqueness to it, but then again, like, after listening to it once, I think I skipped it every single time. So I think I'll probably put the opening and the ending at both meh, to be completely honest. They're just fine. They exist. They're not offensively bad, but they're not anything that I would be doing some head banging to or adding to my Spotify playlist by any means. Now, talking about ReZero Season 3, of course, it is story-wise a continuation from ReZero Season 2. And if Season 1 was incredibly traumatic series of events that in pretty much goes up to the fight against the White Whale and the Archbishop of the Witches Cult, whose sin I can't remember, Betelgeuse. Now with him, him being killed, and also the introduction, Season 2 saw us trying to save a few group of individuals in a village after traveling away from the usual castle that basically is where Season 1 kind of takes place. Season 3 finds us in a town that is, I think, mostly surrounded by water. I can't remember exactly because it's been a week since I finished the show, so I probably should have done a review a bit sooner, if I'm being completely honest. But basically, it's a town that's completely, I think, separated away from other parts of the world, and there's just a bit of internal strife as the villains come out to play, basically. So, with all that being said, however, 16 episodes total, fairly solid story. The ending felt a little weaker than what I had expected, and okay. I did make a bit of a mistake. The first 8 episodes aired, and then there was a break, and then the second group of 8 episodes. So it's like first half happened, break, and the second half happened, and the 4th season has been announced, and of course I am very much looking forward to seeing that 4th season. So I suppose that also kind of gives away a little bit about how I feel just about the show. Is I think that it is great. I think the animation looks really good. I think that the fight scenes were really well done, and also we now get introduced to more members of the witches cult the archbishops of various other sins, and a character that or rather a villain that has affected or caused some issues in the past. We now finally get to meet them in person, and it's very much, this is expanding on the witches cult concept, because that wasn't really touched on that much in the second season. Instead, there was some references to witches, and of course Echidna and all of that stuff happening in season 2. Again, I would rather not go into too much detail, because again, I feel like a lot of the events are inextricably linked together in that sense. But basically, we're building up on the characters that we already know by introducing some more that are part of a group that we already know exists. On top of that, we're also doing a bit of world building regarding the town that this whole season takes place in, but also the what's the word? The governing capital, like what the government of this town does based on its relationship with other towns in relation to it, how it stands alone rather than, being governed by another nation and things like that. The political intrigue that's going on, and the history of the location in and of itself. So there's a lot of good things to kind of take in, both in terms of world building, character building, changes in characters, the thought pattern behind why characters are doing what they're doing. A lot of that is very much being shared, especially with our main character here, Subaru. Like, he has a more front-facing, I think, effect compared to season 1 was just him kind of like really playing around with the idea of what he can do with this death, returning from death type of concept, and that wasn't really used. Like, that was used a good amount in season 2. In season 3, it wasn't actually used all that much at all. It just kind of alerts him more so to danger, so it now feels like a bit more of a gimmick now, rather than, a core aspect of what's going on. But yeah, interesting writing of some of the newer characters. I do kind of appreciate their introductions, what they serve to do, and just things like that. I think that the show overall is actually really good. I think it's actually great, to be completely honest. I don't think ReZero has actually let me down all that much at all. The only thing about the season is that I don't like the way in which it ended, because it felt quite anticlimactic with how the threat was dealt with. Should I have probably expected more? I don't know. I don't know how you would have been able to, resolve this entire, web of intricacies of what's going on in a single episode, with the way in which they ended episode 16. So honestly, maybe they did a better job than I feel like I ever could, and maybe I'm just not giving them, the writers, enough effort in terms of all of what's going on. Character designs, monsters, again, everything just looks absolutely great. The art style is incredibly bubbly, well, somewhat bubbly, while still being able to kind of be gut-wrenching in terms of the darker aspects of what we're looking at. And of course, the story does get quite dark at times, while remaining somewhat bright and colorful in certain aspects. Like, the town itself is very much a water park of a town, basically. So it looks absolutely beautiful. A lot of the color is quite nice, the brightness. It adds to the show rather than take away from the darker elements, because when those villains and horrible things are happening, it really does, strike you. It is quite impactful, and I feel like that's kind of just a good sign of, like, the dark but impactful enough to where it doesn't take away from the bright colorfulness, but yet the bright colorfulness doesn't take away from the dark aspect. So I do like that in that way. So I don't actually have a lot to complain about. It's just the way it ended felt a little bit anticlimactic, and a few characters do get shunted sideways, because now we actually do have quite a large ensemble cast, so some characters we don't see as much of as I would have liked. But yeah, I think all in all, it was a good show, all things considered. I'm going to actually put this in my anime list, so I've just got the app open in front of me, and I'm just going to my watching tab, and this is certainly one of those shows I would give an 8 out of 10 to. I think it's great. As it's described on my anime list, I do think that this is a great show, and I hope that season 4 continues being, of a really good quality. I think season 3 was the weakest in... Oh, no, actually, season 2... That's interesting. I actually don't know what the weakest season of the show is, which is actually a good sign that there is some consistency in that quality. But with all that being said, however, I am interested to hear what you guys have to say about this, so please comment below. Especially if you've seen it, or if I may have convinced you to watch it. I'll be interested to know that in the comments below. But with all that being said, absolutely appreciate that you've been able to watch to the end of the video. That's the best thing that you can do to help support the channel, and I really do appreciate it, because it looks like my videos are now starting to pop off a little bit more than it would have ordinarily. So I do genuinely appreciate your support in watching the videos, and liking, subscribing, and doing all of that other good stuff. But with all of that being said, however, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.